Welcome to the Introductory Biology, Introductory Life Science course. My name is Dr. Peace. If you'd like to know more about me, please check out the video that gives you some more background about who I am. So for this course, we will be using the Essentials of Biology. You can get any edition, but some of the earlier editions, like edition 2, does have the chapters and content in a slightly different order. We are using the 5th edition this semester. You could get the 6th edition, but my goal is that you get the textbook as cheaply as possible. I've looked around some of the used book sites and found that this textbook is fairly inexpensive. You can purchase it through the RVC bookstore. Please note that we are not using the Connect software that comes with this. That is an additional $80 to $90, and I just didn't feel comfortable with that extra cost. And so instead what we have is we have some practice assignments on Eagle that are meant to mimic what that Connect software does. Now, the Essentials of Biology is written by Dr. Michael Windlespredt and Sylvia Mader. And I've had the privilege of meeting and working a little bit with Dr. Windlespredt, and he really does have the best intentions. He wants to help introductory biology students understand things. He knows that biology is not necessarily your major. He gets that this might be the last science class you take in your entire life. And so he wants to make sure that you have a good skill set and that you have a good understanding of science by the time you leave an introductory biology class. Now, having said all of that, this textbook is dry. It could probably serve as a prescription for sleep. It's not going to keep you on the edge of your seat. So my advice is to skim each chapter. Please don't read each chapter and try to memorize it. Don't read the chapter over and over and over again. That's simply not going to help you to learn in this class. What I do is I've made lecture slides, and those lecture slides are based on what's in the textbook chapter. But a lot of times what I'm going to be doing is giving you new information that's not necessarily in the textbook. I'll be introducing and talking about the concepts in what I hope is a much more familiar way, in a way that's much more entertaining and engaging than what you have here with the textbook. So please, please, please make sure to download the lecture slides for each chapter. Click through those. Play them as if you were watching them in a lecture hall, and make sure to take notes. And I know that that feels really weird because you're like, it's all there. It's already on the screen. Why do I have to take the notes? Why do I have to write it down? Well, even though it's on the screen, almost everything that's on the screen would be stuff that I would be writing on a board when I was doing a lecture. So you would be writing that into your notebook. And people in face-to-face lecture classes have found that once they write it down in their notebook, they may never need to look at it again. There is something about the physicality of writing down the notes, of physically writing things, that gets it stuck in our head. So when you're playing the lecture slides, pretend like you're in a lecture hall, pretend like I'm babbling at you, and take those notes. Write it into your notebook. Do that physical action that seems to help us to remember things. So skim and read the textbook chapter. Look through the lecture slides, click through those lecture slides, and take notes. The most important thing that you can do, whether it's through the lecture slides or whether it's through the textbook chapter, hopefully it's both, is to get the vocabulary terms stuck in your head. Biology is like learning another language. I need you to know the terms. I need you to know what they mean, so when we start to use them, when we start to talk about why cells do what they do, why we see this certain thing happening, I can take for granted that you know the language, you know the terminology that we're using, so we can actually answer the question instead of staying stuck on, here's the word, this is what it means, here's the word, this is what it means, etc. We need to get to answering bigger questions. So whatever works for you, whether that's flashcards, whether that's write the word and then write the definition, write the word, write the definition, and do that over and over and over again. Whatever it is, make sure you do get that vocabulary stuck in your head. So when we're taking an online classes can be really challenging. Mainly we have to have an internal discipline. And then we also have to deal with this idea that we aren't necessarily going to have people sitting next to us. We're not going to have the professor right in front of us. We're not going to have what we often have relied on as ways of holding us accountable and making sure that we do things. So if you're going to learn the vocabulary and you're going to do flashcards, you're going to need somebody else to help you. Now, whether that's through Zoom or whether that's somebody else in your household sitting there and physically giving you the flashcard, giving you the term or giving you the definition, and then looking at you with very patient, expectant eyes for you to give the term or give the definition back to them, you're going to need that back and forth. A lot of times, students in the past have used things like Quizlet, and they've tried to give themselves the flashcards. You know, they'll sit there with their pile of physical flashcards and they'll look at the term and then say blah, 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 whatever, I know this. And what I have found consistently is that if we are using Quizlet, if we are using those other sort of electronic programs, or even just doing the physical flashcards with ourselves, we don't get the terms stuck in our head. We seem to need that other person. So this is where my biggest piece of advice is to try and get a friend or get a study group of 2 or 3 people, meet once or twice a week for 15 to 20 minutes. Let's say you set up a meeting once a week for half an hour. You've got 3 people in your group. You're going to meet on Zoom. It's actually pretty easy to set up a Zoom meeting. The learning curve is very short, so I encourage you to try that free software and then set up a meeting. You're going to meet Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Great, that's wonderful. You've got this half-hour chunk of time scheduled. Now, don't fall into the trap of spending all of your study time complaining about your professors and how much work sucks, and spend 10 minutes griping, complaining, talking about, whatever happened on The Bachelor or whatever's going on in the world. Spend 10 minutes off topic, connecting. Spend 20 minutes being focused. But take into account that we're social creatures. We want to have that connection. So plan it into your study group and say, okay, we're only gonna complain for 10 minutes and then we're going to get to work. That tends to be the best way to use your study group time. Back when we used to have face-to-face classes on campus, I would hear study groups for hours complaining about the class, about the professor, about the exams. Hours. Never once discussing or talking about the material. And I'm like, well, you spent 2 hours in a study group, but you never actually studied. And that's why your study group isn't working for you. And what a waste of time. Because the complaining is not going to solve anything. You actually have to do the work. You have to get down to it and start getting these things stuck in your head. So find somebody in your house, find a study group to quiz and go over the vocabulary words. That is going to make your life so much easier. Now, if you have a study group with other people from class, then you guys can answer some of the review questions and hopefully get to a really deep level of detail. So let's say you're in your study group, you've got a review question about, how does water move in and out of a cell? And you might say osmosis, and then move on. One of your other group members might say, well, first we have to classify the solution outside, and then the solution inside, and then and they would go into all of this detail. And you may not have known, oh my gosh, I needed to be at that level of detail. I am so glad I'm in this group because this detailed person has shown me that this is probably where I need to be. This is where study groups can be so helpful. So, one big tip for this class and tip for online is to get a study group. Some of you I know have very strange schedules, and the beauty about an asynchronous online class is that you get to do things at your own pace, and maybe working on biology happens from 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, and nobody else in class has that schedule. That's going to be a little bit more challenging, but you probably are already a pretty internally motivated, self-aware person who knows how to handle these types of things. If you do have any problems, don't hesitate to email me, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Send me the email. I'm not going to read it at 3 o'clock in the morning, but as soon as I wake up, I will read it and I will give you a response. I generally respond within 24 to 48 hours, and you'd be surprised how much I can answer through email. So don't struggle, don't agonize. Get on email and communicate to us. By us, I mean all of your faculty, all of your instructors. Because if we don't hear anything, we're going to assume that everything is fine. If you don't communicate that you're struggling, we will think you're doing okay. So you have to reach out to us if you have any troubles. You may want to reach out to a tutor. RVC does have online tutoring, especially for this Introductory Biology 103 class, so don't hesitate to reach out to them as well. Schedule a weekly appointment with a tutor, and with the tutors, they can really help with answering the review questions and the vocabulary, even doing things like quizzing you. So we've got lots of resources available. If you ever have any trouble, don't hesitate to reach out. We want to get you connected with those resources. So let's talk a little bit about the logistics of this class. For each textbook chapter, and we're covering 16 textbook chapters, we are going to be mostly in order. We will skip around a little bit in the middle of the semester, but we'll start with chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll progress pretty much in order with the textbook. But there's a part in the middle of the semester where the authors here, they go and they bounce and they go do cell division, and I don't want to do that right away. I've got your brain thinking at the molecular level. I want to keep your brain there, thinking really small, really detailed, and then start to step you away to the larger picture. I don't like to bounce between the larger picture, little details, larger picture, little details over the course of the semester. So that's why we'll have a little hiccup in the middle of the semester, and that will probably put you a little bit out of sync with the Bio 104 lab if you are taking that at the same time as you're taking Bio 103. The suggestion is to take Bio 103 lecture and Bio 104 lab at the same time, because what you do in lab will reinforce what you are doing in lecture. So if the lecture doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it's not quite sticking, when you get to lab and you start to play around with things, that often makes things a little bit easier to understand, and suddenly things click and stick. If you're not signed up for the Bio 104 lab, that's okay. Just make sure you take it at some point in the next couple of semesters before you start to forget everything that you did in lecture. That way you get your lab and your lecture credit all taken care of. So for this class, for each of our textbook chapters, we will have a practice assignment. Practice assignments are questions on the Eagle course site. You will go to modules, click on modules, and then look underneath the unit heading. So for unit 1, we have the chapter 1 practice assignment. You get 2 attempts on a practice assignment. The highest score will be kept and recorded for the Eagle gradebook. With these practice assignments, you don't have to do them all at the same time. You can do a few questions, step away, and then come back to it later, and Eagle will record your results. Just make sure that you finish the assignment before the due date. Late work is not accepted in this class for any reason. You can work as far ahead as you need or as far ahead as you'd like, but please, please, please make sure that you are completing everything by the due date. The practice assignments are based and were written essentially with my textbook on my lap, so the practice assignments go alongside with the textbook chapters. The lecture slides interpret the textbook chapters and then build upon that, diving into detail and giving you more examples. And then we'll have homework that really focuses on specific concepts or concepts that I know people struggle with and are a challenge. So we've got practice assignments, we've got homework assignments, and then we've got the quizzes. Quizzes are building you up for the exam. We have 1 to 2 quizzes per textbook chapter. The quizzes are timed. You have to complete the quizzes in one sitting, so as soon as you start, you have to complete it all at that one session. You can't step away and come back. You have to complete it all at one time. Please don't use notes. Don't use a textbook chapter. Don't use Google. Don't use your friends. Don't use anything except for your brain. Now you may struggle. You may want those notes nearby. You could check very quickly and answer the question correctly, but I will tell you that on the timed exam, you're going to get that concept wrong. The quizzes are meant to send you a signal about what you know and you don't know. That's why you don't want any crutches. You don't want anything helping you. You want to go into the quiz as a training exercise for the exam. The quizzes have lower points, lower stakes associated with them. So if you get a question wrong, it's not going to kill you. But you need that signal. Like maybe you felt really confident about a concept like osmosis. You're like, I got this. You take the quiz, you get the questions wrong. Whoa. That tells you what you need to study before you take the exam. We do have unit exams. Those exams are timed as well. You will not be able to use anything, notes or friends or Google or nothing. You have to be able to pull the information and pull the knowledge from your brain. So that's what we will be doing for this class. You will find that I have recorded short videos that go into depth on different concepts that I hope will help. I also have links to other short clips and videos that have been produced by other people or animations that I know will be really helpful. So make sure that you can play those as well. And whatever you do, do not use your phone to complete assignments. The phones don't have the capability to deal with everything that the Eagle Canvas software can do. So I program things into Eagle and Canvas that I know your phone can't do. Some of those things are downloading images. So you want to make sure that if you are doing any assignments for any of your classes through Eagle, that you are always using a computer, your software is up to date, your web browsers that you're using will be Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox. Please do not use Safari, don't use Internet Explorer, those are very glitchy. You're probably going to want to clear your browsing history at least once a week. The Canvas app and the Canvas Eagle software often will not download images unless you've been clearing your browser history on a regular basis. So I just clear my browser history, my cookies every week to make sure that everything in Canvas Eagle works. It's one of the weird things of the software program. We will be covering a lot of challenging topics throughout this semester. Hopefully you've downloaded the introduction lecture slides and you've looked through those. Make sure to look through the syllabus. Your first assignment will be completing a syllabus acknowledgement sheet based on the syllabus that you've looked through. And then you're going to get right into Chapter 1. Start reading and skimming that, looking through the lecture slides, and completing the practice assignment. If at any point you have any questions on anything, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And I hope that we have an enjoyable semester, or at least as enjoyable as it can be. I know that biology may not be your favorite topic, but hopefully you get through this class at least with some interesting trivia knowledge, some things that help you understand the world around you, and most importantly, understand what scientists are doing and why you can trust their conclusions and trust what the scientists are asking you to do or telling you to do or suggesting to do or whatever their conclusions may be. So this class is really meant to give you those skills in critical thinking, analytical reasoning, and being able to judge whether or not the information you're getting is valid, and then being able to make good decisions based on data, based on evidence, based on what's being presented to you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any point throughout the semester.